white like me. Let him smack it, got him fiending, it's a habit. Silly rabbit, got a trick for the cabbage. Bad attitude, got him calling me a savage. He said that I'm mean, I ain't even let him have it. Bow your head, say your grace. If she really wants smoke, gotta blow it in my face.
Welcome.
Run the track like it's a race. Baby, do you really think you won first place? Showstopper, all eyes on me. Body team, now he wanna sit me. You tight, gotta keep it squeaky clean. I never write back, always leave him on scene. Pretty face card on 10. Body right, got her looking. My type, total spin that then. I like what I like. 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 I like what I like.
Hey. All right. Welcome. Oh my goodness. Come on in. Ooh. Welcome everybody, welcome.
Turn me up, I like my money like I like my
Okay, come on in.
Never decline
Good morning.
Act up and you gon' make me make a scene. And the time you hear my voice is when they play me on the screen. Got bad habits, I'm not the one you wanna keep. She a trap star, put that lady on a tree.
So, welcome in everybody, welcome. I am your host, Tonya TKO. I'm a self-love specialist, and on this channel, we typically use viral stories so that I can help you break down and understand the patriarchal programming in there that has been destroying your self-esteem. And so we review those things, unpack them, and help bring awareness to it so you can unlearn it and heal yourself. Me, I come from a journey in which a lot of the issues that I dealt with, I thought that everything was cool and fine, but the programming was in there. And it took me falling down to a really low point last year after I had my surgery. It took a while for me to recover. And I learned that some of the ways in which I had been programmed was actually holding me back from greater success, happier life, etc. And so here we are today. Happy New Year, everyone. Happy New Year. I've decided to shift the focus of my channel to really talking about the patriarchal issues that have been destroying us. I am a grad student on the master's level, getting my master's in psychology. And last semester, I took a Women in Gender Studies class and Intro to African American Studies, and it changed my life and the course thereof. It made me pay attention to a lot of the things that I thought were normal and normalized in our society, and it made me decide to work on creating a school, right? Good morning. It made me decide to work on creating a school for children so that they can learn real history, right? Okay. Today we're talking about Mamdani. And because I put the word Muslim in the title of this video, a part of me has been feeling really down about where online content creation has gone. There's a lot of bots out here making comments, a lot of AI generated content, AI voiceovers, and even real creators creating AI replicas of themselves to be able to push out more content. And we've gotten into a very strange realm. And it saddens me that with 200,000 people on this channel, that only 26 people are here on the live because I put the word Muslim in the title and because we're talking about politics, and they see that I'm brown. They know that I'm more center left leaning. They want to truncate the reach. And it's all right because I'm currently working on an app that will help you all be able to get the notifications right to your phone and get the link so that you can be able to come in. And, oh, you like my 90s look? Yes, that's the heydays of the 80s babies. All right. So nonetheless, so today we're talking about Mamdani. I don't have a set schedule or agenda or whatever for this broadcast. It was something that was on my heart last night. I wanted to talk about the symbolism of Mamdani in the train station, but I want to do a deep dive on that because there are so many stories that are coming out. And what felt on my heart and mind to speak about this morning is the fact that Christianity in this country has, the face of Christianity in this country has become so cruel. The Trump administration is constantly blasting out images on their own social media of undocumented people, migrants, mothers, children getting slammed down to the ground, pepper sprayed, hit, harmed, windows bashed in, choked, punched, aggressed upon by men with domestic violence history in their chart, going out there and now enacting this onto women, children, and vulnerable people and the vulnerable population, right? So welcome in, everyone. Welcome, welcome. I'm your host, Tonya TKO. All right. I would show you some of the images of that, but I didn't pull, I don't have any pulled up for this broadcast. However, they're out there. You know what they look like. What I really wanted to focus on today, this morning, just for a little bit, I wanted us to look at some things that I pulled together behind the scenes because I feel like, listen, I don't even know what to say. You know, I'm kind of at a loss for words because there's just so much going on. I don't even know where to begin. You know what? Let's start underneath it all. Okay? Let's start underneath.
It isn't it.
Okay. Let's start with the great replacement theory.
Attempt to destroy democracy in America. If you put
Let's start it again so you can hear it from the top.
it is an attempt to destroy democracy in America. If you put 200,000 illegals in there and they have like a 80% likelihood of voting Dem, and it's only a matter of time before they become citizens, then those swing states will not be swing states in the future. And if they are not swing states, we'll be a permanent one-party state country. Permanent, deep blue socialist state. That's what America will become. That was the game plan. That is still the game plan. And then they will keep importing more illegals to cement that outcome. Basically what happened in California.
Jesus Christ.
It would have been the end. That's why I went so hard for Trump. Otherwise, it's been the end. And that's why the Democrat machine is so intent on destroying me.
It's just so fascinating that people can't see this.
I invite people to do their research. The more they do their research, the more they will see that what I'm saying is absolutely true. It is an attempt to destroy.
People think just because somebody says something on the internet that is true. So this coming from a damn immigrant, him damn self. This man is an immigrant. He is not from here. He was raised in, I don't know if he was born there, but I know he was raised in apartheid state, South Africa. This is a South African white man who came here as a damn illegal immigrant, his damn self, right? And so I guess he's the right type of immigrant. So nonetheless, they have this thing called the great replacement theory where they think, Tucker Carlson even called it the browning of America. Let's hear from another, look at this AI.
Longer a theory, it's reality. And what's interesting about replacement is that the establishment will either deny its existence, or when they admit to it, they say that it's a good thing that the native European population is soon no longer a majority on its own continent.
You see, these people are nuts. This is not, a white continent.
If you've ever heard of the Great Replacement Theory, this is one of the most common conspiracy theories among far-right people.
Ah, yes, the Great Replacement Theory. The theory goes something like this. Due to the fact that the population of the United States cannot reproduce itself, due to women, especially, deferring their reproductive years to go to college instead of having a family due to the propaganda of the left, the government have been coalescing to pump in tons and tons and tons of migrants to then replace the domestic population of these various countries. What's really interesting about this theory is that that's exactly what's happening.
Well, it's a mathematical fact if you really think about it.
We are pumping in tons, millions of migrants in order to replace the domestic population because we don't push any sort of top-down propaganda for reproduction domestically. And yes, that includes for white people.
If you've ever heard of the Great
All right,
Replacement Theory,
so
this is one of the...
You hear these people, right? You hear them going on and on and on about how they feel like they're being replaced, etc. Right? I want to try to find I want to try to find Tucker Carlson talking about the browning, the browning of America. Let me see if I can get that up. Give me just one moment. Tucker Carlson, browning of America. Let's see if it's, let me copy this in case I need to put it into TikTok because let's see if he's saying it here.
Yeah, no AR-15 can fire 150 rounds in 15 seconds.
Oh, that's not. See, these sites, they make it difficult for us to be able to find the stuff that we're looking for. This is why they want to destroy TikTok. Well, they have destroyed TikTok. TikTok is not the same platform that it was before. It really, truly isn't. Let me put this in here. I'm looking for Tucker Carlson browning of America. Let's see.
No one's mocking the American Indians. Everyone should feel bad about it for real. Again, not in a silly white girl guilty way, but in a real way. These are amazing people, greatly diminished. And the reason it's worth remembering is the same thing is happening to the West. And it makes you realize, especially if you travel a lot, that the problem is not necessarily the immigrants. The problem is what mass migration does to the people who already live there. They're the victims of it in a way that, again, is hard to measure and sometimes hard to notice, but totally real. So you walk through this city, London, and it's been completely transformed by immigration, completely. And the numbers are really, really clear. 100 years ago was 100% European white. Now it's less than 40%. Okay, that's massive, unprecedented demographic change. Got it. And the immigrant...
I want you to pay attention to the fact that just because he says it does not mean that it's true. These people throw out numbers that are not fact-checked and are conflated to push their point. The last time I spoke to a black person in England, they said black people there were less than 4% of the population. Can somebody fact-check the immigrant, the people of color number in England for me? Because these people, they lie so much that you can't take them for truth.
Areas are absolutely poorer than the traditionally white English areas. Absolutely, there's just no question about it. But wealth as measured by the government is not the only measurement. Actually, and this is true in the United States too, lots of immigrants who have a lot less money than the native population seem a lot more balanced and happy. Both because this is a huge upgrade for them just in terms of like annual income and standard of living, but it's more than that. They're not defeated. No one's mocking the American Indians.
This isn't what, because he talked about the browning of America. I wish that we had that clip. Let me see if it's here.
Settle in a new community and then defecate on playgrounds or sidewalks or on their front steps. That seems to me a hostile act. Basically what you're saying is these are countries that have indoor plumbing, like there are options. When you do that, you're saying we reject you and your mores.
Tucker,
what's that about?
To respond to your question, like I said, I cannot respond to, because I've never witnessed it, and I've been Roma all my life, and my family's been Roma all my life, and we use bathrooms, and I've been to Europe many times, and it's kind of like I can't respond to something that I've never seen as a Roma.
So this guy's talking about people are deaf. I wish I could find the clip where he said
This is a message aimed at Christians, who are the largest group of Israel supporters in the United States. And their view of Israel is colored not just by sentimental trips to Israel.
I can't find it, and I'm not going to try to find it while I'm live. He made a statement during a broadcast where he talked about that there's a browning of America, that America is becoming more brown, and he's stating this as if it is a bad thing, right? So we were talking about the Great Replacement theory before that, and I really kind of have to move it along, but we can. Let me show you this real quick from the Matrix. All right.
Almost done. Smell good, don't they?
Yeah.
I'd ask you to sit down, but you're not going to anyway. And don't worry about the vase.
What vase?
That vase.
I'm sorry.
I said don't worry about it. I'll get one of my kids to fix it.
How did you know?
Oh. What's really going to bake your noodle later on is, would you still have broken it if I hadn't said anything?
This was a really profound part of the movie for me. I don't know if you could hear the words because it's a screen record, so it's very jumbled. But she says, I'd offer you to sit down, but you're not going to. And don't worry about the vase. And he turns around and he says, what vase? And he hits the vase, and the vase falls onto the floor and breaks. And she said, I told you don't worry about it. And he said, well, how did you know? And she said, what's really going to bake your noodle later on is, would you have broken it if I didn't say anything? When I saw that when I was little, it blossomed in my brain about the chain effect of what happened. And we all know the whole, we go back to the past, we change something because we think something's going to happen, or we act a certain way, like the prophecy. They have it all inside of Greek mythology. They even have it in Bible lore, I believe. I remember that there was a story. It was a Greek story about a boy who it was prophesied that he would K-word his father, marry his mother, and they were like, oh, we can't have this happen. So they sent the boy out. You all know this story. Tell me what it is in the comments. They sent the boy out to be in the woods, but the maid who took him out there felt sorry for him, and then someone came along and found the baby, raised the baby. The baby thought, was it David? I don't know. Tell me who it is, because you all know this story. And then the prophecy ended up coming true because they had heard the prophecy beforehand. How does this relate to the Great Replacement theory and the whole browning of America that Carlson was talking about? I wanted you to take a look at this broadcast that I did the other day. This one right here. Jumani, I believe his last name is Williams. He was just voted in I forget which position he was voted in as, but he was just voted in. I wanted to just show you this right here.
And from every heritage, so do our prayers, so do our people, so does our power.
Yes.
We've shown it in the face of oligarchy and authoritarianism. Neighbors standing with neighbors across borough and background to defend immigrant communities and feed hungry families. We see it in the multicultural mosaic that brought us to this very moment. Even with this great moment, I know that realizing the full potential of our possibility will not be easy. It never has been.
Thank you, Janie.
Yet I believe it's possible to make great progress because I've seen it through my years in the building behind me and the streets before us.
Yes.
I've been in our movement and I've seen things move. The simple truth is that governing is hard, that achievement is exhausting, and I aim to assist my partners in government when possible and hold them to account when necessary to learn from what we've done and guide what we can do.
Yes.
I believe in this possibility that with the people, the tools, the passions, and the compassion that we need, we can meet the moment and create change. We can look into the unknown and see opportunity. That's the thing about uncertainty. Anything can happen, but anything can happen.
Yes.
We could.
Chills. The thing about uncertainty is that anything can happen, which also means anything can happen, just where you put your inflection. Please don't put links on my live broadcast. If you want to send me, because these links are not vetted. If you want to send me something, you can send it to tonyatko.com/contact. Otherwise, I don't know what you're putting up, and I can't look at it on air.
Make New York more affordable, more safe, and more just. We could, we can, and we have to try. This optimism toward action is embedded not only in our city's heritage, history, but in my heritage. In Grenada, Maurice Bishop took up the fight for these radical, crazy ideas, socialist ideals like housing, healthcare, and education. He demanded that we move forward ever, backward never. And today I echo that call from the Isle of Spice to the island of Manhattan. He also cautioned that revolutionaries do not have the right to be cowards. We can be afraid, but we have to meet that courage to match it.
Yes.
There are things to be feared, but there is also reason to hope. Hope is the embrace of possibility. Hope and fear are undeniably connected. Hope is the belief that good can come. Fear is the worry that it won't. In these contradicting ideals, we are faced with a choice, and I choose hope. In other words, I have faith.
Yes.
But faith without works is dead. So today, I'm committing to the work of public service, and I ask every New Yorker to commit their own talents to use what they have and do what they can for the success of our city and everyone who calls it home.
Yes.
I don't know if when my mother...
So I want you to hear, I want you to hear this part right here.
My Grenadian mother arrived as a teenager. She hoped that a half a century later, her son would speak from these steps.
Yes, I didn't think she would think that.
But she could have, because here in New York City, we choose to celebrate possibility and work to make reality.
Yes.
I wish I could go back and tell my younger self that. Instead, I'll say it to my daughters today, to the children of the Perez Araneda family, to everyone who may question their own worth, like I did, or whether it's worth fighting for the city with all its contradictions and problems and possibilities. And I gotta take a second to say something to so many young people who are out there.
Yeah, say it.
But I'm gonna say it to one person who's waited 49 years to hear it. Little black boy, you were worth it. And you always were.
Yes.
And without any titles, you were enough. You were always enough. And you deserve to accept love, and you deserve to be protected. And I'm honored to be here to help create a city that's worthy of that for you. And I'm so proud of you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So just hold on. We're going to be all right. We're going to be all right. I'm so proud of you.
Let's go. Let's go.
Power to the people.
As we head into a new year, a new term, I want to ask all of you to take an oath with me. Our neighbors, I know in Brazil, adopted this motto, and I've tried to embody. I did hear it for Comptroller Lander, but I got to give him his credit. That no one let go of anyone's hands, because if we're all connected, we can't lose anyone. So we hold on to the hand of our neighbor and we reach out with our other hand to grasp someone who may fall through the cracks, and we bring them along. I want everyone, if they're comfortable, take a hand of the person next to you or the arm and just repeat after me. We can all be the voice of the people.
We can all be the voice of the people.
I know what's ahead, but I won't lose hold.
I know what's ahead, but I won't lose hold.
I won't lose hope.
And I won't lose hope.
Anything can happen, so anything can happen.
Anything can happen, so anything can happen.
March forward.
And as we march forward,
no one let go of anyone's hands.
No one let go of anyone's hands. Oh. That was powerful. I felt the ancestors move through me on that one. I felt the ancestors move through me, y'all. I did. I really did. And as a New Yorker, I'm so proud. I'm proud of what we have done. Listen, there's no place on earth like New York. New York, you know how they say if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. New York is the type of place that you can walk up from Chinatown through Little Italy to head up into Chelsea where all the gay people are, and you can walk up through Flatiron, you could keep walking up through Harlem where all the black people were until it was gentrified, and you could walk up from neighborhood to neighborhood, you can walk up to Little Korea in Queens, you can have Brazilian meal for dinner, Greek meal for breakfast, Japanese for a snack in between, and Italian pizza by night. You can do anything and everything in New York City. New York City is a melting pot, right? And I just pulled up while he was talking, I just looked on TikTok real quick. I just looked up the word immigrant arrests, right? That's what I looked up. And so this is what we have.
Arrest of a Somali immigrant in Minnesota, seen pictures.
We have. This is Trump's America. Yeah. This is a student with no issues. She's on a student visa. They just didn't like what she was posting.
No, you don't. Show me. Show me right now. Where's the warrant at? No, show me the warrant right now. We're not gonna let her go. Yo, get your hands on my mom.
And say goodbye to his family.
He's not going anywhere. He's gonna go.
Okay, nos vamos a ir con él. No, and then he left him back. How dare you? Nos vamos a ir con él.
You guys really don't need to be doing all of that. حبيبي كيف بدي اتصل فيك؟ Okay.
Mommy's coming now. Okay? I'm getting out. Well, you should have done it already. I told you 3 times. I'm looking to see those step out of the car.
In front of his child, dropping the child off.
Yes, I understand.
But they're doing I'm born here. I'm born here. Brooklyn, baby. Suck my.
There are worse videos out there than that of them slamming women to the ground, prying children out of mothers' hands. When that woman was screaming, it did something to my soul. Because that was a blood-curdling scream right there. That's the type of scream that you scream in despair. Oh, my goodness. And My question to you, my question to all of us here in the United States and people abroad, what does it do to us? What does it do to us to have to harden ourselves to witness cruelty and feel nothing? What does it do to us to have to sit by and see injustices happening and have to run ice through our veins? What does the ice in our veins do to our organs, to the pieces of us that we need for our own humanity? What does it do to us when we sit idly by and watch these things occur? So, you know what? I'm gonna play this even though I wasn't planning on playing it. All right, give me just 1 second, y'all. Let me just pull up something real quick. This was something that I came across last night, right? I wasn't planning on talking about this, so I didn't have it queued up. I do have videos that are queued up, but this just wasn't one of them. Oh, my. Did I not save this video? Gee, Louise, I didn't save the video. Okay. So what I'm going to have to do is, okay. Let me look this up because it was Henry Fonda. Yeah. Henry Fonda's father made him watch a lynching. Right?
The lynching thing, a particular...
Henry Fonda's father made him watch a lynching. And I saw this video yesterday because Joy DeGruy, tell me how to pronounce her name. Is it Grew or Gry? The one who wrote Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome, she talked about the effect that watching lynchings had on children, that no one studied that. But Henry Fonda talks about...
Because, in fact, you actually witnessed the lynching, didn't you?
I did, as a matter of fact. I was 11, 12 years old, I guess, in Omaha, and my father's printing business was on the second floor of a building that overlooked the courthouse square in Omaha. And he came home one night and told about this lynch mob that had started to form during the afternoon. And after supper, he put me in the car with him. We drove back downtown, and it was very unusual for me, for my dad to be taking me at my age and turning lights on and unlocking doors and going up the stairs, which is unusual. You know, it's not like doing it in the daytime. And I remember those physical things and walking across this empty office to the window, a window that overlooked the courthouse square, and this was where the riot was happening. My father never talked about it. He never preached about it. We both just were observers. And I watched an out-of-control mob of several hundred men drag a young black boy out of the jail in the courthouse, overpowered the sheriff to get him out, strung him up on a lamppost, riddled him with bullets, dragged him around back of a car or something like that. The mayor, this is how long we did have automobiles, but the mayor, for some reason or other, was on horseback, evidently because he could get into the courthouse square away from the streets easier. He was on horseback trying to stop this. They damn near lynched the mayor. That's how out of control these bastards can get. That's, well, as Lincoln says in that scene, and he points to somebody. He's a God-fearing man, and what is he doing here? And I'm sure when he gets home, he's going to take down the good book. And it was a traumatic experience for me. I'll never forget it.
Must have had a profound effect on you. Why did your father do that?
Well, he never told me, but I would like to think that he realized that it would be a lesson. I had to grow up and move away from Omaha to appreciate that my father was a liberal Democrat in a hotbed of Republican reactionaries. That's Omaha and Nebraska still is.
The lynching thing, a particular relevance.
This grown man said that it was a traumatic event for him. And he was 11. You've seen the pictures. I don't have them queued up, but you've seen the pictures of children, little white children at lynchings. So when Charlie Kirk says that we need to bring public executions back, because I did a video on it. Damn, I wish, because you see, it's like when I get to talking, I start talking about things that I've talked about in other videos, and then I'm like, oh, I want to pull it up. Tonya, TKO clips. Let me go to Tonya TKO clips, because I did a video, and actually I have a whole Charlie Kirk playlist on this page. Let me go and see if I can find my playlist. Let's see, playlist, click up at the top. And then there's a Charlie Kirk longs and shorts.
Nicki Minaj.
Oh, shut up. Okay, let's see. So there's a short where Charlie, let's see. Here, let's see.
You will never live in a society when you have an armed citizenry and you won't have a single gun death. That is nonsense. It's drivel. But I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year, so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights. That is a prudent deal. It is rational. Nobody talks like this. They live in a complete alternate universe.
I'm sorry. If I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified.
Well, that's the you wouldn't have done that. You wouldn't have. You wouldn't have done that before.
That's not an immediate.
No, you wouldn't have done that before.
That's not who I am. That's not what I believe.
It is the reality the left has created.
You truly, in your heart of hearts, truly believe that this is a human being. This,
without a doubt.
Without a doubt.
Yes.
This is a dolphin fetus.
Oh,
so let me.
So listen, I want to find the clip where Charlie Kirk talked about he believed in public executions. Let me see. Charlie Kirk, public executions. The thing is that I'm looking for the title, but goodness knows. Oh, here it is. Perfect, right here.
In fact, I even think that we should bring back.
You know, the crazy part, right? The crazy part is that it's radical to even properly title things. So it's like, I'm glad that I had the courage. So like, even though this video didn't get many views, I'm glad that I had the courage to title it properly so that people can find it. So here, let's hear what Charlie Kirk had to say.
You know, public executions on certain people. No, but think about it. I think that, and you guys should laugh, it should be public, it should be quick, it should be televised. By the way, you could fund the government
to watch it.
You could have like brought to you by Coca-Cola, and no, I'm not kidding.
So, these are the same people that would bring their children to lynchings. You think that you have a higher moral compass, and you would bring your child to watch a human being be murdered? You sitting up there eating while a dead person is hanging from the tree, and you think that you're morally superior? Please. Come on now. What are your thoughts about that clip right there? He feels that they should have public executions sponsored by companies so that people could sit around. Listen, when Kendrick said they not like us, I am learning that there's something off about these people.
In fact, I even think that.
All right. You know what? I had re-edited that clip so that it had the pictures in it. I remember because my editor he needed the pictures and I had gotten the pictures to him, but where's that clip now? I'll get it together. Don't worry. We're going to get it together. So for what it is that we are gathered here today to talk about. One last thing I wanted to show you from the Charlie Kirk broadcast, right? That's Matrix, that's that. Let me go back and see what I had. And the governor of Utah.
You will never live in a society.
Nicki Minaj.
This man despised black women. He sure did. Talk about it, Tonya. He sure did. People in this country are acting deaf, dumb, and blind when it comes to this type of racism and rhetoric. It's actually very, very disturbing. So this is the video that I had up. I wanted to just show you all. I just wanted to just scroll through so that you all anything can happen. So yes, Tonya. Yes, go girl. Yes. All right. I just wanted to just scroll through so that you could see that at his inauguration, he had a lot of different people there who were representing. This person came.
What so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes.
We have a person of color singing the national anthem. We have Alexander Ocasio-Cortez.
And our school chancellor.
We have her. We have this guy.
Most merciful of those who show mercy.
And he started out his prayer. He came.
It's a pursuit of a better city and
you on this day from
status.
For this moment. Most.
So I want you to just see this.
Because
this is the first time that I have ever seen this on a political stage in the United States. Take a look.
Pray. Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Arham Rahimin, most merciful of.
Did you hear him just bust out into that Arabic? Let me tell you something. You know what? I'll tell you in a little bit. So he went on and then he started praying in English.
Those who show mercy, we turn to you on this day from our city with hopeful hearts.
And then he went on, right? Then we had like the guy who was singing Somewhere Over the Rainbow. He looked like he was Jewish or something, because I don't know, but you take a look. Don't listen to the vocals, just appreciate the diversity.
From your window pane.
This, I don't know what's going on right now.
Behind the sun, just a step beyond the rain.
So someone is talking about no black women in his cabinet. Yes, very problematic. And somebody needs to pull his coattail, because you cannot have a true conversation about true liberation with black women not being in the preparation. This is why this inauguration was so seasonless, why people were singing who couldn't hit notes. But I just want to focus on the diversity. So we had Letitia James, who was there. Look at me. Why am I so dramatic? I'm so dramatic. Golly. Well, why? Why must I be here like that? I love the animation that I provide here. House. Because she came out. See, like this is even for the people who have not had children of their own or yet. But the children. Oh my goodness. That was a beautiful thought. That the thought that counts. I don't know, the choice for who they brought to do the main song, I'm not sure about that. He looked like he could have been from the Jewish community, so perhaps.
Happy New.
Yeah. About that, he looked like he could have been from the Jewish community, so perhaps that was part of the reason he was included, because I cannot understand, just so that they could say, well, you know, we're all inclusive. Hey, come on, Letitia. Come on.
Is Brooklyn in the house?
Bronx is in the house. Hey, Bronx is in the house. So listen, so they had Letitia James up there. They had the stage was filled with diversity. He needs more black women in the conversation. He does. We had this guy up there. We had this man who did his poetry. There were no black women centered in this production. And to me, that is problematic. It's a problematic start. We had this black man who some of you thought were fine. His skin is smooth as all get out. So there's that. And then we have Jamani Williams, and he spoke. And then we had this person doing her song with that sound underneath it. I don't know what her background is. You know, people, they come from all different, you could watch the video. We had Bernie Sanders up there, cold as can be. They kept taking and putting his hat on and off of him. The poor little thing. And then we had Zohran, who came up and got sworn in with Bernie. And we had a full array of different people of different backgrounds, right? So Jasmine Crockett is in Texas. What are we talking about? So she's a Southerner. I don't know. I really honestly don't know. I don't know. And I don't know, is Jasmine Crockett a Democratic socialist? Listen, people are talking about the Democrats, but these are Democratic socialists. So this is going to become a third party in the United States because the Democrats are on this, they're just Republican lights. So speaking of Republicans, so part of the reason why we're gathered here today is because I wanted to show you here. Let's get this. The links to the videos that I'm playing are in the description of this video, so you can find some of these people. This is, I don't know how to pronounce his name, a Divon Solicited, right? But he made this video here that I thought was
white evangelical,
that I thought was really important.
White evangelical Christianity in America is a front for racism. It is a front for white supremacy, white nationalism, and the KKK.
Don't have a sign, everybody welcome.
I just want to pause this real quick. There's a person who's claiming that they're black, saying, if I wasn't qualified, I wouldn't want a position just because I'm black. I don't think that that person is black. I think that that person is a troll, because never in the history of all of my motherfucking blackness have I ever felt the desire to come out and try to repeat some undertones of racist white talking points. Please cut that bullshit out right now. I'm going to replay this video, but please cut that bullshit out, because never in the history of anything have we ever been hired unqualified. The motherfucking problem is that we are more than qualified and we still don't get hired. Please check your references. Stop this shit. Please, I don't want you to get blocked on my broadcast, but don't come here with no supremacist talking points light out of some supposed black body. Shut the fuck up. I've never in my whole entire life. Come on, stop this shit. Stop this dumbass shit. Let me continue going forward. Let's pull this up again.
White evangelical Christianity in America is a front for racism. It is a front for white supremacy, white nationalism, and the KKK.
Don't have a sign, everybody welcome, because everybody's not welcome to our church. There's a certain element of people that just aren't welcome. The images always show Jesus Christ with arms outstretched, wide out, but the reality, Jesus Christ is not wide arms, right? His arms are, what he said, the path was straight and narrow. But is it open to everybody, like in the broad sense of the word? No. I just don't know. I mean, the Bible doesn't, literally, in spite of what people say, the Bible doesn't address black people. Hardly at all.
White nationalism and white supremacy are so interwoven and ingrained in the Southern evangelical Christian identity that the grand wizard of the KKK, Thomas Robb, is a pastor. And as a pastor leading and guiding his flock under the guise of Christianity, he's ushering in new generations and new waves of white supremacists and the KKK. The KKK has had a rebrand, and they're no longer going by the KKK, but they're going by the Knights Party, and he's no longer going by the Grand Wizard, but going by the National Director. When asked if black people could be saved, he refused to answer, and then he said, there's no mention of black people in the Bible. There's no mention of white people in the Bible. The Bible was not written by white people. The characters in the Bible were not white. The characters in the Bible were Middle Eastern, brown people. And the fact that white supremacists have hijacked the Bible and hijacked the religion of Christianity to make it white is so rooted in ignorance, because Europeans made Jesus white, so therefore Christianity is white and Jesus is white. It's just literally insanity. And to say that Israelis wrote the Bible, mind you, the identity of Israel didn't exist before 1948. But to do that and to suggest that white people are only welcome in the arms of Jesus, black people can't be saved, and brown people are not allowed, so deeply rooted in ignorance and a gross misrepresentation of what the teachings of the religion are, even if you want to believe it. But it takes so much energy to be racist. And this is all interwoven in the way that it's happening, because we have America and the Western world reverting to right-wing conservatism and extremism, which is rooted in white nationalism and white supremacy. We have Trump pushing these ideas of white supremacy. We have Turning Point USA ushering in a new wave of ultra-conservative white people who are willfully and blindly turning an eye to the reality of what it means to be American and their place as white people in this country. We have J.D. Vance pushing forward the ideologies of white nationalism and racism, married to a brown woman, Trump being married to immigrants who wouldn't even fit under the umbrella of white nationalism. This is why I always go back to critical thinking, comprehension, and literacy, because how could you listen to a man say that all people aren't welcome to be saved and enter heaven, but that's the primary teachings of your religion, and you say, yeah, heaven is for white people? There's no mention of black people in the Bible. There's no mention of white people in the Bible. What the fuck? You are descendants of British people, Germans, and Scandinavians, and French people. Y'all are not in the fucking Bible. The only whites that are in the Bible weren't even white, and those are the Italians, the Romans, because Italy didn't exist back then.
Listen.
It's insane to me that the bastardization of a Middle Eastern religion and a Middle Eastern man has been made to embolden white people to think that heaven is only for white people. What do you guys think? White evangelical
All right.
Christian.
Like I said, that link is in the description of this video. I wanted to just play another video here. This is Monty Mader. This is the video that I did on somewhere close to New Year's. All right. Oh, my music is still up. I didn't even know that. Oh my goodness. I didn't even know that. Wow. All right. All right. So let's go.
It's truly a really hard thing for some people to accept that white people didn't exist in the Bible. In fact, did you see the controversy over the Royal Mail stamps featuring the Nativity? The complaints were that it was too Muslim and too brown. There was a couple comments from X that I particularly loved. I'm sure in an age where Anne Boleyn is black somehow, this is out of an innocent desire to portray things with historical accuracy. Definitely not just endless anti-white propaganda. Another attack on Christmas and Christians. It's almost like the Christians who are so deeply committed to their religion that they're worried about an attack on Christmas forgot that Mary is from Nazareth, which is right outside Galilee.
I want you all to just, hold on.
Another attack on Christmas.
It's fine. I don't have the time to go through the whole video. I just wanted you all to just hear how, let me see how much longer I'm going to, let's see.
Christians.
I want you all to see these stamps. So there's a lot of controversy going on in England right now because they released some nativity stamps and white people are losing their minds.
It's almost like the Christians who are so deeply committed.
I want you to see these beautiful stamps. So this is why I have my head covering on, because this is a more accurate historic representation. So as you see, these people are just a twinge brown. Mary holding the baby is just a twinge brown. The angels, they all have a little twingeness of brown in them, and these people are angry about it. How they feel that even that little twinge of brown is too much for the stamps. Part of the reason that I put that Matrix clip in is because these people and their cruelty, they're about to usher in, because let me show you, we're running out of time because I have an appointment I have to catch. But let me see if I can get to here. This video I wanted to share with you all.
Of Auntie Samina, the woman that Zohran Mamdani. I want you guys to watch this clip of Auntie Samina, the woman that Zohran Mamdani mentioned in his inauguration speech, because this is really powerful.
Sorry, my English is not so good. It's okay. I have written some.
That's fine.
Okay, first of all, congratulations. Your empathy deserves to lead. Okay, number one. Number two, thank you for creating softness in people's heart. In world where people are not united. Okay. The third one, please continue to be our light and hope during this difficult time.
Thank you.
Really, you, my family, my daughters, my husband, everyone. When I go outside New York, I see some happiness and satisfaction in people's face. I'm a very good observer. So I saw a little change in their people's faces, like hope, light, happiness because of you.
Listen.
What's your name?
Samina.
Samina?
Yeah, I'm from Pakistan.
Pakistan?
Yeah. Urdu aati?
Oh.
पढ़ तो नहीं सकता हूँ
नहीं पढ़
बोल तो
सकते
सकता
लेकिन
हूँ।
मैंने हाँ तो मुझे ये था कि मुझे पता नहीं इंग्लिश मेरी बेटी कहती नहीं मामा उनको आती है आप चाहे आप उर्दू में बात करें
कहाँ से हो पाकिस्तान
पाकिस्तान लाहौर
लाहौर से
मैं
एक दफ़ा गया था
लाहौर
बहुत ही खूबसूरत शहर
बहुत खूबसूरत शहर है लेकिन आप जैसे लोगों ने आके न्यूयॉर्क को बहुत खूबसूरत बना दिया है यकीन करें वो खूबसूरती अलग है बिल्डिंग्स की हर चीज़ की बिल्डिंग लेकिन जो खूबसूरत बदल दी है
I have to kind of fast forward.
नहीं मैं आपसे इंग्लिश में भी अच्छी बात
जो भी बोलना है
आपकी आंखों में जो एक सच्चाई है ना वो किसी से छुप नहीं सकती किसी से छुप नहीं सकती नहीं
Thank you.
Let me tell you something. When you're a young South Asian man in our culture and an elder says something like that to you, it moves you to tears. And
All right. So I want you to see what is happening because these people are ushering in their effort to not be replaced. I feel like I don't know if you all will really hear me if I say it. I don't know if you'll hear me, but I'll say it anyway. That these people, in an effort to not be replaced, they're actually participating in activities that are making brown, black, immigrant adjacent people wake up. And in their reflex, their life drive, as Freud would put it, the desire to live, that strong force that people have to continue on. There are more of us worldwide than there are of them. And what they're doing is they are scratching people out of slumber. That's what they're doing. And people are coming together and they're waking up. And what's happening is this. Let me show you again. I want you to just see what is happening. I want you to see this right here. Zohran Mamdani is becoming the face of softness, the face of equity, the face of mercy, the face of inclusion, the face of healthy interactions with people, love. Mamdani, a Muslim man, he is bringing in, let me just listen. Y'all, if you hear me, let me see some clapping emojis. I want you to put up 5-5 for 2 5-finger hands coming together so that I can see some clapping. If you're on a computer, throw up 5-5 for the claps. Absolutely. Because what we have is, we have Mamdani. We have Mamdani who is going, oh my goodness, that is my time right there. I don't have enough time to finish this broadcast. Let me see, because there was a video that I saw, but it's like, you know, you see so many videos in a day. Mamdani was...
We are here at 85 Clarkson Avenue. This building is owned by Pinnacle Realty, a notorious landlord whose name is all too familiar to far too many renters in New York City. Content with a lack of heat, roaches, and the kind of conditions that no New Yorker should have to live through. This building and 92 others owned by the same landlord.
So he's coming after the landlords. You know these rich people are not going to be happy. This was him on New Year's Day.
I can't remember exactly
The year?
More than years.
Mayor Zohran Mamdani inspecting broken floor tiles in an apartment on Clarkson Avenue in Prospect Lefferts Gardens, getting a first-hand look at the deteriorating conditions, from an eroding bathtub surface to a rust-covered, corroded bathroom pipe and red paint splashed about.
And you told the landlord about this?
Yes.
And what was the response?
Call some numbers, but nobody want to do anything about it.
Residents in this same building and in others owned by the landlord Pinnacle Realty say they've experienced similar conditions, from leaking bathroom ceilings to moldy drywall. Tenant unions rallying in response, demanding stronger tenant protections.
When did this happen?
All right. Mamdani in his suit, crouch. Well, first of all, many of these Republicans can't crouch down low like that. on New Year's Day, crouched down on the floor in the slum, looking at the way real people are living, and he is making steps to change this. He is becoming the face of kindness. He is becoming the face that people will turn to, a brown-skinned man from South Asia. Much like maybe Jesus may have looked. I don't know, right? This right here, I just want you all to see. I want you to pay attention to what's happening. A Muslim man is bringing softness back. A Muslim man is bringing in fairness, love. I just want you to see what else. I gotta write to this person and tell her that I'm gonna be a little bit late.
It appears that MAGA is upset and losing their shit that Zohran Mamdani, the new mayor of New York City, swore himself in on the holy book of the Quran. And I just have a PSA to everyone not from New York City. If you're not from there, have no family ties there, didn't grow up there, and don't live there, keep your opinions to yourself.
New York, oh, how your political identity has changed and how quick you have forgotten what happened 24 years ago.
I want to remind everyone that this is the same holy book that Al-Qaeda referenced to justify its terrorism.
Not on a Bible, on a Quran.
Hey y'all, hey. The New York City mayor just got sworn in and placed his hand and took his oath on the Quran instead of the Bible.
We as Americans, as citizens, we need to start taking matters into our own hands because the media is not going to do it. I mean,
shut up, you. Shut up.
America is a secular nation, meaning there is no official state religion, meaning that we are not a Christian nation, even though the majority of these people in this nation claim to be Christian. Per the Constitution, the document you guys have no idea exists and that your president doesn't follow, you can get sworn in on any holy book. It is not limited to
any book.
The Bible. President Trump didn't even put his hand on anything, but you didn't have a problem with that. No, because you guys are what? Say it with me. Racist.
Racism, let's do that shit, huh? Come on, if you're racist and you know it, clap your hands. What the f?
The craziest thing about the racism, massive Islamophobia that's been normalized for you guys to talk about when it comes to Muslims and when it comes to Zohran is literally just racism. You guys don't know the first thing about Islam, the first thing about the Quran, and the first thing about the belief system of that religion. I'm a millennial, so I grew up in the time of 9/11. I have been socialized and propagandized to believe that all Muslims are evil, the Quran is evil, that everyone's a terrorist, and that's just not the fucking truth. If you look at the atrocities that the Bible has been used to justify, and you look at the Christian nations that have destroyed most of the world and continue neo-colonization, you're okay with that because they're what? White, and it upholds what? Your way of life. But I say all of that to say, you in Iowa and Minnesota with nothing going on but your cornfield, the fact that your daddy is your brother's uncle and your uncle is your baby daddy, leave us alone. New Yorkers understand diversity is the key to success. We understand that religions coexist peacefully forever. The first Muslims that came to New York were like 400 years ago, and they were Moroccan, came via the Dutch and the Spanish. Leave us alone, bro. I'm in Dominican Republic right now, enjoying my life because guess what? People with New York have passports and we understand what the world is. Unlike y'all dumbasses. Congrats, Zohran. I can't wait to come see ya in New York. Ciao. It appears that...
All right, so... Yes, we grew up in the 9/11 era. For those of us who are a little older than other people, we grew up in the 9/11 era. I remember learning and being taught that Muslims are bad, they're evil, they're violent, and all of this stuff. And then I traveled to the Middle East. For those of you who, I wish I had had my pictures all pulled up and ready to go. I traveled through Kuwait, the Kingdom of Bahrain, Jordan, Syria, Turkey, Greece. I went through the whole gamut. And one of the things that I learned is that Islam is a peaceful religion. Islam is a very peaceful religion and the people are very peaceful. But what we see on TV and the propaganda, people are going to learn through the presence of Zohran Mamdani that the stuff that they had learned about Muslims were lies. The way that Trump and his cabinet is behaving, the way that these evangelicals are behaving, are going to convert. Listen, they're going to convert more people out of Christianity. And people are going to start looking at other options because these people are bringing in their own demise. Let me show you something else real quick here. This person, her name is Britt Harley, No Nonsense Spirituality. The link for her video is in the description of this video. Let's take a little listen to her.
Known for about the past 10 years in the data that American religion is no longer considered theological. Like no one seems to be debating anymore real theology, Catholics versus Protestants, which baptisms is God into this week, is God Trinitarian or not? Like we're not really in America doing any form of theology anymore. Politics is our religion, and religions have had to take one side or the other, sometimes even splitting in half over a single issue like gay marriage. In fact, the only church that is currently able to have half Republicans and half Democrats in a congregation and not blow up over it is the Catholics. And there's two main reasons.
I just want you to pay attention to one of the things that she said. Politics is now our religion. It has replaced Jesus. And then this guy, his name is, I don't know his name, but his channel is Culture, Faith, and Politics. And this is his intro to his channel video.
Out of town, so we've got.
Oh, Pat Conklin.
Hey everybody. So this is the second video that I'm making to talk about some things that I learned in 2025. And it's actually, I think, going to be the.
Nope, this is not the video that I want. This is not the video I want. This is the video I want.
And in the name of welcome video. So here we go. If you're new here, this is the best explanation I can give for why I started this channel years ago and why as of July 2025, I'm continuing to make these videos. If you're trying to make sense of the chaos in American politics, and if you're troubled by the church's role in it particularly, then we've got something in common. I'm Pat Conkey. I spent 20 years as an evangelical pastor, and I was a lifelong conservative Republican until Donald Trump.
This man left pastorhood. Listen. Donald Trump made this man, listen, just hear for yourself.
Right now, as we're about 7 months into Trump's second term, I've simplified my mission on this channel this way. I tell people I'm trying to tell the truth, protect the vulnerable, and work for justice. In my most recent book, A Christian Case Against Donald Trump, I described it this way. I laid out the way of Jesus versus the way of Trump. And I broke that into three main sections, as simple as I can. The way of peace versus the way of the demagogue, the way of truth versus the way of the deceiver, and the way of justice versus the way of the oppressor. And another way that I've put it just on a grand scale is that I'm trying to stand up for the way of love versus the way of the predator. So those are a few short phrases that kind of summarize what I'm trying to accomplish here. But if you want a much deeper look at what I'm doing, then just listen on, because here's a full.
I just want to get, because I have to get out of here.
The church has grasped after power, and it's aligned itself with corrupt rulers who promise to protect the church, specifically the white evangelical wing of the church I talk to a lot, because that's where I came from.
All right, so I wish I could play more. It's just that I'm running out of time. So let me pull up a little bit from this video here.
The last video I'm able to make until Monday, January 5th, because I have more family.
I just really love the way this man talks. He just sounds so, I don't know, like there's a buoyancy. Oh, you would, I don't know. I like it. I like listening to him.
Family coming in from out of town, so we've got a few days planned of some fun activities, and I hope that you have a great new. In some of the dumbest and grossest and most abusive actions any U.S. president ever committed, that he is exactly who a lot of us have been saying he was for years. And throughout 2025, I watched the majority of people who voted for him continue to support him. And sadly, on surveys, most of those people do claim to be Christians. So in 2025, I learned that the white evangelical movement in America is utterly depraved.
Utterly depraved. The white evangelical movement, people who are Christians are learning that this movement is depraved, that white culture is blaringly synonymous with racism, racist acts, and etc. So there's something else I wanted to show you all that I thought was very relevant and important so that we can set the mother effing record straight. This video is also in the
Pay
description.
for Muslims to be in Congress, because if they swear...
So this guy right here, what's the name of his channel? The name of his channel is Friendly Atheist, right? And he has a bunch of different clips of people who swore in on different types of books.
And even though that had been done before, because there have been other Muslims, Rashida Tlaib right here, both of them took their oaths of office on a copy of the Quran that was meaningful to them as well. And even though that had been done before, because there have been other...
This person, right,
as a new NASA administrator...
This person took her oath on some sort of book. Hold on. I want to go to the first. I wish that I had edited this video. It's just that in order to do all of that stuff. So hold on. This person, let's see.
A few years ago, when NASA was led not by Trump cronies, but by competent people, one new administrator, this woman in the center, can you see what she's taking her oath on as a new NASA administrator? That would be a copy of Carl Sagan's The Pale Blue Dot, a wonderful book and very appropriate for a NASA administrator. And then later on, this is also a couple years ago, I believe, another NASA administrator took her oath, and if you could zoom in there, that is Carl Sagan's Contact, which again, a wonderful book to take an oath on, especially if you are working for NASA. I love that. My favorite version of this is from a representative in Congress, Robert Garcia. He tweeted this. This is from 2023 when he was sworn in. Will be proudly sworn into Congress on the U.S. Constitution. Underneath the Constitution will be 3 items that mean a lot to me personally. A photo of my parents, who I lost to COVID, my citizenship certificate, and an original Superman #1 from the Library of Congress. Which, oh my God, that is fantastic. You have the power to kind of get whatever you want from the Library of Congress. This is what you go for. That is badass. I love that one. There's also, I wanted to show you a couple more of these because they were just really amusing. This is just a headline from 2019 over here. If I can pull this up. She said, you know, this is a family.
Hold on.
This is Dr. Seuss book to be sworn into office, because she said, you know, this is a family thing. The campaign was a family affair, and my kids loved this book. So she swore in on a Dr. Seuss book.
Novels. I don't know if Carl Sagan is a novel or if it's nonfiction. I don't know. They're swearing in on Carl Sagan's books, Superman, comic books, constitutions. They're swearing in on Dr. Seuss books. Come on. So to all of the people who are talking about, oh, he swore in on the Quran. Okay. All right. So he swore in on the Quran. I just want you all to pay attention to what is going on right now. I have a little bit of time, so I'm going to play a little bit more of Concle's video where he's talking about, and then I'm going to switch between this and his other video.
And, you know, maybe these rulers will throw evangelicals a bone on a pet issue or two. If the church will just put aside their reservations about the corruption and the abuse that those leaders are visiting on the nation. 80% of the white evangelical church in America has voted for Donald Trump and his movement after everything that they've learned about him in the past 3 presidential elections. That's a symptom of a movement that's lost the plot on what Jesus calls his people to be in this world. As a movement, they've ceased to be a blessing, but instead they've made themselves a curse.
Listen, he's so deep. And so let's switch back to this video real quick.
And as a movement, I don't think it's worth saving. Now, I use that term white evangelical movement loosely. So
All
I'm
right,
not
I
going to
just
get
really
into
don't
all of
have
that.
much more
but
time. I really, really don't have much more time because I've run out of time. This video was only supposed to be 1 hour and I've gone over that. So I just wanted to impress upon you all of us, right? We are entering into the age of Aquarius and a new day is dawning. And Trump, his administration, the way that white people cling to the worthless power of whiteness in its own merit. Being white is the whiteness is worthless. You are worshiping in something that has no whiteness was invented. It was created in the 1600s purely for hierarchical reasons. And as long as people cling to the value and worth of whiteness and whiteness culture, which is racism, you have nothing. Human beings, our natural instinct is love. Our natural inclination as spirits in human form is love. Love is the only truth. And the ways in which we have to contort ourselves to be okay with the heinous acts going on nowadays are harmful to us. And people don't feel well. People are sick. Men are taking their lives at record numbers. People, our young people, the more they interact with the current society that we have today, the more depressed they are, the more societal they are. All of that is happening to our young people. They do not want to live in the world that we have created for them. And a person like Zohran Mamdani and all of these white people freaking out who don't live in New York, let me tell you, stay in your lane. Worry about the people in your area. What they're really worried about, they're worried about Zohran Mamdani coming in here and interrupting their money because money is their God. I remember when I was in Japan many years ago, somebody told me, "Kanaba wa mottenai desu." They were like, money is God. And that is the direction that many of these capitalistic societies have gone into. Britt Hartley says that in the church that politics has now become God, and God is, we are in the worship of politics. We are using politics to worship these people. This is idolatry. I don't know how so many Christians are going along with this. Is because the devil of capitalism and greed has infected these branches. And true, real Christians need to stand the F up and denounce these people. But so many of these people are worshiping in congregations that are led by racists, and racism is being baked into the lessons. I wish that I could have curated this video a little bit better so that we could have had the more stuff to hear from the actual people who were Christians. However, I will end on this. And then I want to see your self-love lessons before I jump out of here. It's a new day. It's a new dawn. And I'm feeling good. Listen, it's a new day. It's a new dawn. And I'm feeling good. Listen. We are in the age of Aquarius, and love is coming to the forefront, and it's being brought to the forefront by a brown man of Muslim faith. And people are going to begin to see one juxtaposed against the other. Rabid, white, evangelical, racist, quote unquote, Christians, and the contemporary, young, brown, kind Muslim fighting for the common man. Listen. We're going to see what's about to happen. We're going to see what's about to happen now. Because the more Zohran's face is out there, the more we embrace diversity. Because they know that with diversity, I'm from the Bronx. I went to an HBCU. I have no white friends. I started going to an Ivy League school a year and a half ago, and I entered into classrooms with people from different backgrounds, and I started to hear other people's stories. I did not know that the people in Iran were hurting. I did not know that their country was once a colorful country until the regime came in and took away the color. I didn't know that. What these people want for us here in this country is they want Sharia. They want Christian Sharia law for us. Let me play one more thing before we get out of here. Let me play one more thing before we get out of here. I just want to, I came across this video late. In the middle of the night, mama says, when you gonna live your life right? Oh, daddy dear, you know you're still number one, but girls just wanna have fun. All my 80s babies, girls just wanna have, oh, you really, really want. When the working day is done, oh, girls just wanna have fun. Oh, girl just wanna have fun. Where's my video? Wake up in the middle of the night, my father says, when you're gonna live your life right. Oh, daddy dear, you know you're still number one, but girls just wanna have fun. Oh, girls just wanna have, that's all they really want. When the working day is done, oh, girls
So hello
just
everyone and
wanna
welcome.
have fun. Here it is. Oh, girls just wanna have. All right, here we go. So this video I need to add to the description because I did not plan on talking about this. So I'm putting it in the description right now so I don't have to wait until afterwards. And then let me just update all. So here, let's hear him.
Back to the last video in this little temporary studio. And today I want to speak about trad wives and once again conservative women complaining that, oh my god, conservative men are so misogynistic, only for conservative men to come back and be like, yeah, we really are. Yeah, we really are. And we only see you as wives and silver work. And he comes back and his wife has like an apple pie ready for him and she won't criticize him. They don't actually do any domestic labor.
It's kind of a trick question because I hate them both equally. But I guess I would say I would rather.
These are guys talking about them not doing domestic labor. I want to get to the Megyn Kelly, this fool. Listen to this.
And what's happening is they can't find men who are maybe more conservative. Usually they're looking for somebody who is religious, you know, like a lot of conservative women tend to be God-loving conservatives. And they can't find a lot of young men who want to marry a working woman now. And this is an actual problem that's coming up on the right. And to me, it's so sad because it's like, how did we get to the point where we're now telling young, conservative, amazing women that they're not attractive if they also work, if they choose to, let's say, do what I'm doing and what you're doing and like get their voice out there. But I'll stick with me just because I think conservatives listening to this will like the thought of another Megyn Kelly voice up and coming. Well, why wouldn't we want that? Why would we take somebody who's talented in this field?
I want to play more of this, but I just really don't have the time. It's like these people are stupid and delusional. I want you to hear from Matt Walsh's voice himself. They don't want, these stupid women are vying for their own downfall and demise. They enjoy the privileges and the benefits that feminists fought for them to have, only for them to want to take rights away from women. Like, make that make sense, these stupid fools. So here's Matt Walsh, listen.
Is not looking for a business partner.
Hold on. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, what's happening? Ugh. All right. So while this thing is trying to load up, I'll just say they love the benefits of feminism that feminism has afforded them. Like even Erica Kirk, somebody came into my comments asking me, what benefits has feminism given women? The right to vote, the ability to have a bank account, the ability to own property in your name, the ability to be able to have custody of your children, because before men used to get custody of the children and be able to use them as pawns so that they could put them to damn work. And then after they put in laws to stop child labor, then the men didn't want their damn kids anymore. This is how we got to where it is that we are today. I don't know why this is not playing. Hold on, let me come out. Let me refresh. All right.
So hello everyone and welcome.
This is how we got to where it is that we are right now, right? So I looked up, so somebody came into my comments the other day and was like, a man invented tampons. And I looked it up and I said, oh, contraire mon frère, what the data shows is that he was the first person to file the patent in 1930. But also what happened, what was existing in 1930? That women, that they could not file the patent's ownership would be in their husband's hands because of Coventry laws. So tampons and people using, women using absorptive materials internally has been around since ancient Egypt. I'm sure longer than that. However, because of the situation that we have with the unfairness that exists in our societies, I don't know whether or not he, quote unquote, invented the cotton use of tampon on a string. But listen, I don't put anything past these people after I started learning about how these men co-opted their women's inventions, their women's paintings, novels, and more, and how these quote unquote racist, these quote unquote slave owners co-opted black people's inventions. And then now they want to come after, they've tried to strip the history books of this stuff. They want to be like, well, white people did all of this, men did all of this. Please sit down and stop this madness. Please stop it. Stop it. Stop this mess. All right, let's go back in.
And wife. And I just reject that so hard. So let's listen to him.
A man is not looking for a business partner. He's not looking for someone to provide for him. He wants a wife. He wants a mother for his future children. He wants a helpmate. He wants a woman, not a man. This is not a new phenomenon. Megan calls this desire of young men a problem that is coming up on the right. But it's not a problem, and it's not coming up. It's the way human society has been organized since the dawn of civilization. A young man seeking a woman who will have his children and prioritize raising them and keeping a home is doing the same thing that billions of other young men have done since time immemorial.
I can't listen to any more of this because I've run out of time, but I just wanted to let you all, I wanted to finish on this point. They want Christian Sharia law for you. You effing damn dummies. I don't know how else to put this. How much longer are you going to go along with this Serena Joy foolishness that we're seeing out there? How much longer are you going to vie for your own enslavement? You stupid fool, as you sit up there on a damn broadcast talking about, don't they want more Megyn Kellys? No, motherfucker. They want you in the goddamn house with no fucking shoes on your goddamn feet so that you can't run, you stupid mother effer. What's wrong with you? Like, I am tired of playing nice with these people. These people are not working with a full damn deck of cards, and it is going to be up to us to do the damn thing to help raise us up out of the situations that we're in. And Trump, these evangelicals, these racists, they have overplayed their hands. There are more of us than there are of them. And what is about to happen is we're about to see a brown man in the forefront because everybody's watching New York. Everybody's watching us, and they're going to see him be the one who is kind, be the one who I can guarantee you. I can guarantee you this. Well, first of all, Zohran Mamdani's father is a professor in the history department at Columbia University. So I know them motherfuckers ain't gonna go up onto Columbia's campus now. I know they ain't gonna go up battering students under Mamdani's mayorship. I know they're not gonna do that. But I can guarantee you that if ICE comes into this city, I can more bet that I would see Zohran Mamdani on the front line with the immigrants saying, pull me in. arrest me. I can see him doing that more than one of these people who are in this current administration. And I bet, listen, look at what's about to go down. New York is about to be the training ground. It's about to be front and center. New York is about to be the example for the rest of America. Watch and see. We are getting up out of the drudgeons. Watch and see. We are coming back up out of hate and moving back into love. Watch and see. We are entering into the age of Aquarius, and brown and black people are going to be at the forefront of this change because, listen, they thought that they had buried us. They did not realize we were seeds. They didn't realize it. Oh, nah. Let's go on and let's get our self-love lessons up. I apologize that we didn't have a dance party in this broadcast. Just know that I'm dancing in my heart with you, and I'm about to go out and do some working out right now. But let's I want you to type SLL, and I want you to tell me what your self-love lesson is from today's broadcast. I want you to state it from the I, me. I am, I will, I do, stated from the I, me, I and me. I have learned that for me, I will do this, that I have shifted. I am doing this exactly, right? Positive, affirmative. So no words like don't, not, never, any of that. We're going to switch it. And I want to hear your self-love lessons. And I'm going to give you my self-love lesson after all of this. Love is the only beginning. I will stand with those who want to see and be changed. Absolutely. Absolutely. The world will be watching. Yes, let's type SLL because I have to get out of here. I got to go find my knee pads because I'm going to be doing some floor work, exercise, and dancing. SLL, I am a seed. I am moving forward. Yes, I love that. I love that. Let me see if I can get some music up in the background. I love that. I love that. Let's see. Do I want to play Auld Lang Syne? No, I don't want to go into SLL. I am a seed and I'm moving feverishly forward. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Love it. I will be the change I need in the world. I will remain sober and alert and act wisely. Hold on. All right, so glove up. Yes, throw those boxing gloves in the air. I have learned that for me to stay focused and have more self-love despite who's around me. Love it. Trump's press conference I can't even cover it. I have to leave because someone is waiting for me. And so I can't. I wish I could though, but I can't. I will be vigilant to anything or anyone trying to, I want us to talk about, not even hold back. Let's talk about the positive affirmative. I will continue to move forward with those who want to move forward with me. Let's not think about who wants to hold us back. Let's not think about despite who's around me. Let's talk about with who's around me. Positive affirmative through and through from beginning of the sentence till the end. All right? My self-love lesson today is about speaking truth to power. My self-love lesson is about speaking truth and speaking from my heart. Speaking up and noticing. My self-love lesson is about keeping my heart open to love. About being in the true nature of myself as a spirit being incarnated, which is love. That is my self-love lesson, to stay connected to that and to speak up, speak truth. Speak truth, all right? So let us go ahead and get out of here because I really do have to go now. I gotta find my knee pads and all of that. Go out there and love one another. Most importantly, love yourself. And I feel like my chest muscles are flattening. I gotta get back into my workout. I'll see you all later.